Hello everyone, my name is Manolis Finarolakis, the founder and producer of Reality Crowd TV, a reality TV program focusing on educating individuals about crowdfunding. We are actually beginning a new weekly event called Crowdfunding Office Hours, and the purpose of Crowdfunding Office Hours is to help individuals who come to us and give them a basic understanding of what crowdfunding is, some strategies to use in order to raise capital for your artistic endeavor or business, and to really give them a free resource to understand exactly what it takes in order to crowdfund. The reason why we started this is because a lot of people have been reaching out to us through our various social media channels, and they're asking us for help. And we really wish that we could be hands-on with every single individual. Unfortunately, we're also running our own crowdfunding campaign, and we're also helping other people with their crowdfunding campaign as well. So what we came up with is a period of time every week that we will be able to just give at least an hour or two of our time to answer any questions that anyone who is currently trying to crowdfund is going through at the moment. And so this being our inaugural episode, what I thought was a good topic was to go through a presentation called Crowdfunding, Financing Your Small Business. So at the moment, we don't have any other individuals on the line, even though there are invitations out there. We may be interrupted just momentarily when people join in, but I will give the presentation until I hear anyone else joins in, and then we can introduce whoever comes on the show. So without further ado, I would like to begin the presentation, Crowdfunding, Financing Your Small Business. So I'll pull up the slides here. All right, so this actual presentation was given at the University of Hartford at the Entrepreneurial Center for Women, and it was definitely a well-attended event. At least 20 people came live in person, and it received a lot of good feedback. So we'll go through just briefly. This was made for 2 hours. I'm not going to try to go for a whole 2 hours, but we'll go over what crowdfunding is, the 9 stages of crowdfunding, and we'll also go over an overview of all the crowdfunding platforms. So just so you know a little bit about myself, again, I'm the founder of Reality Crowd TV. I'm a member of the professional associations in the crowdfunding industry, including the Crowdfunding Professional Association, the Crowdfunding Intermediary Regulatory Advocates, and the National Crowdfunding Association. Reality Crowd TV, our reality TV show about the crowdfunding movement, has allowed us to give a lot of speeches all over the country. We've gone on tour to New York, Atlanta, DC, Boston, Jacksonville, Denver, Seattle, and Texas. And throughout all these trips, we were able to give a lot of speeches. We were able to show some mock shows and panel discussions. And so we really understand the ecosystem across the United States. Formerly, I was an auditor. I was also working at Deloitte & Touche right out of college. I have a background in accounting. And I was an auditor as well at the Hartford Insurance Company when I finally heard about crowdfunding on October 23rd. So the next slide, I'm actually going to head to a video because this video is going to be very helpful for you to understand exactly what crowdfunding is. So give me a moment while I switch here. And I'm going to just play this video because this young lady has it down pat. One of the greatest challenges most people are going to face is trying to explain what crowdfunding is to someone who hasn't heard of it. And I'm going to let her explain it. But just to give you a reason why you need to know it down pat, 7 out of 8 people in an informal video poll that we went through at a Starbucks using my GoPro camera, 7 out of 8 people had never heard of crowdfunding and they never heard of Kickstarter. So with that said, you really need to be able to explain what it is in a very simple way, and this young lady will certainly do that.
Crowdfunding is a concept that's been around for a long time. It's the idea of passing around the basket at church in its oldest incarnation, of a large crowd of people being able to contribute small amounts, which in aggregate meet the financial goal of any organization, group, or individual. And so when you look at crowdfunding and how it's evolved, the reason it's become a buzzword recently is because it's gone online, and so the potential of it has expanded exponentially. The crowdfunding bill is important for small businesses because it creates access to capital that currently is very hard to come by. The basic concept of what this will mean for entrepreneurs and investors is that an entrepreneur will post a description, a very thorough description of their business, the finances, the business plan, what they're going to do with the money, the budget, etc., and they're going to be able to share this opportunity with anyone they so choose. Most likely it'll be their customers, friends and family, might be Twitter followers, people who share an affiliation with them that they think might be interested, etc. The investor will then pledge a certain amount of capital that they want to invest. If the fundraising goal is met for how much money that entrepreneur is looking for, then the money will transfer to the entrepreneur. So it's an all or nothing arrangement. What I hope that America will now see is that after the SEC rulemaking period is done on the crowdfunding bill, approximately 9 months from now, and platforms can be created and launched that allow for crowdfunding, that entrepreneurs who currently feel like funding is a roadblock to them achieving their success can now have the opportunity to succeed. I strongly believe that crowdfunding is not just for high-tech businesses. I, in fact, think that the majority of people are going to be using this in the long run. The majority of businesses in the country are small businesses, and that's who can really take advantage of this.
So that right there was an excellent example of how to explain what crowdfunding is. And I'm actually going to take a short moment because I do see we have some viewers on the line. Just so the viewers know, I'm going to explain exactly what that was right there. But also for the viewers on the line, if you have questions at any time, you can be able to follow the circle of Reality Crowd TV, and then you could actually post a question anytime during this presentation, so that you can have anything you'd like me to answer for you, I will. So I'm going to take breaks at certain points to kind of explain things further. But for those of you who are following the circle on Google Plus of Reality Crowd TV, you will also be able to use the question and answer application that can help you, that I would be able to answer your questions with. So the young lady, that was a White House video. The young lady was explaining what crowdfunding is in a very simple way, and I recommend just copying word for word what her initial conversations were. So in that video that we just saw, essentially what happened is she explained what crowdfunding was like this. Take the concept of passing around the basket at church, where a crowd of people pool their financial resources together in order to contribute to somebody with a need. Take that concept, put it online, apply it to anything including small businesses, tech companies, artistic endeavors, and films, and that's what they call crowdfunding. So that, for the viewers out there, is a very basic yet important way to explain what it is, because many people in America do not currently know. Thankfully, we do have another live participant. We have my friend James Fierce. How are you, James?
Hey, Manolis. I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, I tried a couple of times and it wouldn't let me on, and then finally, I don't know if there was a Google Plus problem or what, but I was able to get on, so rock on.
Great. So give a little introduction, James, because this is a live hangout on air. So give a little introduction, and then we'll continue with the presentation.
Sure. Okay. So my name is James Fierce. I'm the innovation coach now. I've recently rebranded myself to that position. I'm also a team director and working on actually getting a couple of virtual teams started up. So a lot of craziness going on in Jim's world these days.
Wonderful. And for the viewers who may not know what TEAM is a referral network that meets weekly, and they're going to be using Google Hangouts to actually bring their in-person face-to-face meetings virtually for those who can't really meet weekly face-to-face. So they're doing a lot of great things, and I'm working with James as well to get involved in that. So thank you, James, once again for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Perfect. So we'll go back to the presentation now. I'm actually giving the Crowdfunding Financing Your Small Business presentation, and that's going to help people understand a little bit better about what crowdfunding is and what it takes to succeed. So heading back to the presentation, basically crowdfunding is converting social capital into actual capital through the internet. And just to give you the statistics for the viewers out there, crowdfunding really began in 2009, and at the end of 2009, there was $1 billion a year raised globally for creative projects. Flash forward 4 years later to the end of 2013, it accelerated to $5 billion a year raised globally. And this is an amazing growth spurt it had. And experts are continuing to say that the ability to raise capital through this mechanism will only continue to grow. The World Bank in November of 2013 actually released a report that said in 20 years, crowdfunding will be a $90 billion a year industry that raises capital for creative projects and small businesses alike. So things are expected to accelerate, not decelerate. And so after this slide, I'm going to just stop and just kind of share some more details. But the 9 stages of crowdfunding. So as a result of Reality Crowd TV having to go through our own crowdfunding campaign, we're going to crowdfund our own reality TV show about the crowdfunding movement in about a month or so. Because of this, we've had to go through our own process to really build our crowd, to come up with a plan, and to really understand what it takes to crowdfund. And through this process of our own, we've identified really 9 stages that every project would go through. I mean, not everyone starts at the same place, but in general, if you're starting from scratch, including starting a business from scratch, you really go through these 9 stages, which are your business planning, securing your intellectual property, your social media strategy, your public relations strategy, your campaign strategy as to how you're going to get your message out, your networking and team building, your website development, and then finally your profile and video. Within that profile and video as well, you really need to understand, if you're offering a tangible reward in a rewards-based campaign, you also need to understand fulfillment, meaning manufacturing costs, cost to ship. There's a lot of intricate details in that profile and video space. So before I go any further, James, did you have any questions at all currently? James? You might be on mute, James. I'm sorry. You might be on mute. It's still, sorry, James, it's still not working. I don't believe. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry. Okay, I'm multiple muted.
There we go. Perfect.
I wanted to make sure that I was muted. Okay, sorry about that.
No
So,
problem.
you know what? I've been studying up a little bit on your 9 steps because, we're going to be working together on a project. So I've been doing a little bit of homework. So I don't really have any specific questions about the 9 steps, but I have to say that I think it's very important that businesses follow those 9 steps. I was kind of randomly helping a friend who wants to do a real quick GoFundMe project, right? Just to gain a little bit of money for something that he wants to do. He really only wanted to raise a couple $100, but he was so anxious to jump into it that he didn't do any planning, he didn't do any strategizing. And I know at that level, you don't need to do a whole lot of planning or strategizing, but you really should do some. You shouldn't just jump into anything without thinking about, well, why would people want to contribute to your cause? What is in it for them? Do you know what I mean? So I think those 9 steps that you're talking about are very, very important, no matter how small or how big your campaign is, right?
Absolutely, and in fact, I mean, those 9 stages, if you think about it, they could apply to any business. I mean, you could change the titles, but ultimately, you really need to. You can't just go in it blind. You can't just hope for the best and launch a campaign. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing. There's only a 43% success rate on Kickstarter, and that sounds amazing. Don't get me wrong, 43% success rate is good, but it started out much higher. But as crowdfunding becomes more popular, what happens is, they have a great idea one day, and a week later they're launching their campaign and hoping that the internet angels are going to come down and save them. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. I mean, you have to do the work to be fundable in the first place, and that's really what these 9 stages of crowdfunding do for you. Is they get you to see it as a plan that needs to be executed. Not just a wishful thinking thing, let's just throw it up there, see what happens, because that approach means nothing's going to happen. And actually, James, since you're here and since you are an innovation coach, this is actually a good segue for me to kind of share a tool that I think might help you and your clients, or even might help any of the viewers to organize themselves. So let me share with you this tool that I'm affiliated with. I signed up for it to kind of help me manage my clients, and I use this to help them demo it. So what we do is we would go to what is called the funding roadmap. And so to kind of get to the funding roadmap, I have the links in the Google event, so if you ever want to go through it yourself and check it out. The purpose of it is to really get you to do the first stage of crowdfunding, which is your business plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to log in here, and the first step is really your business plan. And what's great about this software is it is 100% linked up to the equity crowdfunding rules. So all these disclosures that are going to be necessary in your business plan are mirrored to be able to be very close, if not identical, to the current proposed regulations for the equity crowdfunding side of the business.
Sweet.
Yeah, so in other words, you almost, you're still going to need a lawyer to look through everything if you're going to go through equity crowdfunding. That's a given. This isn't going to replace an attorney's review. But what this will do is this will lower your costs because you'll have all your ducks in a row, and you won't have to spend hours upon hours with an attorney creating a business plan. You'll have it all here in one place that's already, mirrored to everything that you need in the crowdfunding space. So
awesome. Is this a free tool, or is there a cost associated?
There is a cost associated with it, and I'm not sure exactly what it was because I bought it back in October of 2013. But if you go to the event page and you click on the link, all that information is there. It'll give you a 7-day free trial so you could fool around with it.
Cool.
And then if you like it, you can then use it. You could purchase it yourself, and then each time your client is about to do it, you're going to ask them to purchase it because they need to organize things. You know what I mean? Without
yes.
the ability for your client to organize it and both you to work in one place, it's just going to be a crazy mess, and you won't know what you and your client are doing.
Right. So I see there's not only just the business plan, but you've got a marketing plan, the marketing strategy, the financial management plan. So this, it's called Funding Roadmap, but it could also be used by any small business to help them just develop their business plans in general, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you have management plan, you have financial management. This is such a comprehensive tool. It is catered toward crowdfunding, but the business plan module is for any business. This isn't just for crowdfunding; it's for any business.
Yeah, it'll work. It'll work in multiple different directions. I like it. I love it. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, and then up here too, what's really cool is they have the crowdfund piece. So the task and action plan. This is kind of where you could even just document what your pre-launch strategy is.
Cool.
It has a bunch of other things. Fill out the information about registration and incorporation. You have build your social media network. You can just type in your strategies here. It's really a one-stop shop for your team to know exactly what the strategy is and to organize everything in one nice place.
Sweet. Yeah, that's great.
Yep. So I wanted to show you
one-stop shopping. I just can't say enough for one-stop shopping because you know what? A lot of people. I mean, I jokingly put a post up. I think you might have seen it, Manolis, yesterday, about this new HOA that we're starting for the pathologically overcommitted, right?
Right.
And anything that those of us who are pathologically overcommitted can do to kind of streamline something and one-stop shop things and just make it easier to find things in general. I mean, I'm definitely all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's a no-risk thing. I mean, you get a 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, you don't even have to give a credit card or anything. It's just you just try it for free, no credit card information. So works perfectly.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna mute for just a second. I'm gonna grab something to drink because I'm dying of thirst, and I'll be right back.
No problem, and I'll continue the presentation here.
Yep.
So here we go. Moving on to the next piece of the presentation. So we just went over the 9 stages, and in this scenario, this slide here, I just like the slide. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. I'm all about keeping positive motivation, and a lot of times when we hit roadblocks, many entrepreneurs, especially in crowdfunding, they hit a roadblock, they don't succeed the first time, and suddenly they say that crowdfunding doesn't work or this business plan doesn't work. And in many cases, there could be some flaws in your plan. But ultimately, if you're really passionate about bringing what your idea is to the market, you're not going to give up when you hit a roadblock. You're going to find a way to, become someone greater than who you currently are so you could achieve what you want to achieve. A lot of this is an inside game, and that's why I include a lot of these little quotes, because I truly believe that if you really want something, then you have to become the person who can achieve what he wants to achieve, and that includes improving yourself to be able to achieve it. So to just give an overview, there's really 4 or 5 types of crowdfunding. Donation crowdfunding is really used for charities, people who have some sort of medical emergency or a natural disaster causing havoc in someone's life. A lot of people use this, and 2 of the best sites are ucaring.com. I'm not sure what their business model is, but ucaring.com is a crowdfunding website just for donations. They don't allow you to offer a reward, and it's free. So I'm not sure how they even make any kind of income, because they don't even take a percentage of the money raised. That's usually crowdfunding platforms. When you raise money on a website like Kickstarter, if you raise $100,000, they're going to ask for 5% of it at the end of the campaign. uCaring doesn't ask for anything, so I'm not sure how they actually are alive right now, but they do that. And then DonorsChoose.org is another great site. This is for, I believe, over 51% of all schools in the nation use DonorsChoose.org. It's really a way for teachers to supplement the financial shortfalls of their school districts to purchase any number of materials for their classes. The rewards-based crowdfunding, this is your top websites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. This is where you put your profile online for your project, you create a nice video, and you accept contributions in exchange for a reward or a trinket. So we're going to go through a couple of examples to show you exactly what that looks like. But a very basic example that I always like to share is, let's say you're an artist who wants to professionally create a music album. It costs $5,000 to go to a studio. You go to a crowdfunding website like Kickstarter, you create your profile, and you ask for $5,000 and prove to people through your video and your profile content that you indeed are good at music. In exchange for, let's say, a $25 contribution from initially friends, family, and social media, you would be willing to give them a finished copy of your professionally produced CD, and you would give this to them after you receive the $5,000 to actually produce it. So you're pre-selling your finished product before it's created, and you're able to tell people that I'm accepting your money now, but you won't get your CD until 3 to 6 months from now, however long it's going to take to produce the album. So rewards-based crowdfunding is very powerful for product-based companies, but I also believe it's powerful for service-based companies, because people are getting innovative as to how to provide tangible rewards even when they're a services company. Equity crowdfunding, that was what the young lady was going through in the video that we saw from the White House. So what's happening is, as a result of the 2012 Jobs Act, this was a piece of legislation that was passed back in April of 2012. And what happened in that Jobs Act, they said, my God, look how successful the look how successful the rewards-based crowdfunding is doing. If it works for just a donation in exchange for a reward like the Kickstarter model, could it work for an investment in exchange for a purchase of a private company's share, meaning ownership of a private company for a contribution? Or could it even work for loaning that company debt in the form of a bond, whereas the reward would essentially be interest on that bond? So there's a lot of provisions. I don't want to go through all the details here, because it is pretty high-level stuff, and I definitely recommend that you go through an attorney to really understand the equity crowdfunding. But I'm going to stop here because there's another thing I could show you, James, and I want to make sure that you're also don't have any questions. So James, any questions currently?
No, it's good. Like I told you before, I've run a Kickstarter campaign about maybe a year and a half ago. So I'm really familiar with the rewards system, and it's awesome. I don't know too much about the equity, so I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more from you about that.
Perfect. Well, I would love to, but let me just show you one more tool again that that ended up teaching me a lot of what I know. I mean, there's no substitute for just, you know, joining professional organizations. So James, like for instance, for you and anyone on the line, the best way to network with people who know this inside and out is by joining the Professional Crowdfunding Association, joining the Crowdfund Intermediary Regulatory Advocates, and then even joining the National Crowdfund Association. These groups give you access to their members, and I've been averaging about 4,000 minutes a month on my phone just networking with anyone I can in this industry. And so over an 8-month period, I've now become very knowledgeable because I just suck up, you know, everything I hear about it, and then I, of course, talk to attorneys to make sure I'm telling people the right thing. You know, so let me just show you this. This program is called Success with Crowdfunding, and these guys literally were part of the actual group of individuals who brought the regulation to Washington. They're responsible for the actual legislation. So again, if you go to the event page, you will see that there is links to this as well, and unfortunately this isn't free either. But the great part about it is, if you don't know anything about crowdfunding, although this focuses mainly on equity and debt crowdfunding, it's applicable to rewards-based crowdfunding as well. But for you, James, to get a basic understanding of exactly what you need, you'll notice that this platform is extremely powerful. So I would just start with the beginning. It's really the basic course, Keys to Successful Crowdfunding Program. And they have great lessons. They have the what is crowdfunding, what type of crowdfunding is right for you, preparing for launching a crowdfunding campaign, actually running it, beginning with the end in mind, and how much money do you need. It really brings you through a very logical progression as to what is necessary in the crowdfunding space. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just play this video only a couple minutes, just so you can kind of get a feel for these two gentlemen. The gentleman with the blue shirt, his name is Sherwood Neese. He's a great guy. He's been on our show before, and his partner is Jason Best, another partner in the firm Crowdfund Capital Advisors. And I'm just going to play this just for you guys so you can get a feel as to how comprehensive that they'll get into it.
Welcome on board. We're glad to have you with us. Well, I guess the most logical place for us to start is, what is crowdfunding and what's the difference between crowdfunding and crowdfund investing? We're going to try and make this as easy and simple for you to understand so that you can get started and know everything that you need to know. Right off the bat, there's one thing that's similar between both of them. Crowdfunding is the ability for you to go out and raise a large amount of money from many small investments. So it's a large group of people putting small dollar amounts into an idea or a business.
Crowdfunding's been around for a very long time, hundreds of years in fact. It's the oldest way of raising money. It's raising money from your friends and family. What's new is the ability to do it with debt and equity securities, and also the ability to use the social web. Now with the web, we've got the opportunity to raise money from larger groups of people in a more transparent, scalable, and faster way. One of the examples of crowdfunding from the past that a lot of people don't know about is the Statue of Liberty. The statue itself came from France, but it had nothing to stand on when it arrived. And so the people of America came together and raised money from thousands of contributors across the country, who each received a miniature Statue of Liberty for contributing to the construction costs, the base of the statue.
So see, many people didn't know that the actual Statue of Liberty was one of the first early examples of crowdfunding. It didn't involve the internet, of course, but it was crowdfunded in its own right. So James, you know, that program, I mean, if you're looking for something to really just get a very good understanding, they literally will take you through all the steps of equity crowdfunding, but again, it would also apply to rewards-based crowdfunding as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. And so let me just continue on with the presentation, unless you have any other questions currently?
Nope, I'm good.
Perfect. Let me just go through here. Fortunately, I have to keep going from the beginning here. It's kind of annoying. So again, debt-based crowdfunding is, same thing. It's securities, but instead of actual taking equity, you're now loaning a company money, and they're just getting debt. They're not giving away equity. This form of crowdfunding is very interesting. Royalty-based crowdfunding. This is where it's a loan in exchange for a percentage of the company's future revenues. So, sometimes with debt or equity, there's like a certain amount that you have to deliver on every time. Royalty is flexible because if a startup is not necessarily earning a ton of revenue in the beginning, they're only asking you for a percentage of the annual revenues to be paid out to the investor. And so that gives a startup flexibility in the early days where they may not have to pay a lot out if they're not earning a lot, but it's also flexible to the person loaning the individual money, because let's say the startup hits a home run, then they're getting much more money, from on a percentage basis for taking a percentage of the revenue. So it's really an interesting way to go about crowdfunding as well. So let's go to some interesting examples so that the viewers can see kind of how this crowdfunding process works. So one of the biggest examples of success was known as the Pebble Watch. And of course, I'm starting out with the bang here. But there's other smaller examples that, of course, I'm going to show you as well, because this is, to many people, they can't grasp what happened here. So Pebble Watch, they only asked for $100,000. What the hell happened? They raised $10 million. So they received 70,000 individual contributions that equaled $10 million because people on Kickstarter saw this project and they wanted what they were selling, which is a simple watch that syncs your multiple Apple devices, iPad, iPhone, your TVs, all in a smartwatch. It was really the first example of smartwatches, and it just went crazy. I mean, they had a video, they went through, and as you can see, I'm not going to go through everything, but I want to show you all the detail they put in. And you'll see that they did a good job to really convince backers that they were a legit company. And this is the thing that you'll see. If you just scroll through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you'll notice just one paragraph of detail in the profile, and sometimes they don't even have a video, they just have a picture. And now you wonder to yourself, now you kind of see the difference between success and failure. One of the best ways that I tell people when they ask me for help is, have you seen examples of other projects that are similar to yours that have both succeeded and failed? Because ultimately, if you're not comparing yourself to people in your same industry who have had success, you're going in blind. You're not doing the things necessary to make you succeed. You're just hoping for the best, and you're not putting in the work. A lot of these, Pebble Watch, for instance, I mean, this is a perfect example of kind of how you can organize your own profile. Their video was also excellent. And before I play the video, any questions, James, at all? Okay, I'll take that as a no. I didn't hear anything. So I'm going to play the video for a moment just to show you kind of how they did it, and you can get an idea.
Hi Kickstarter, my name is Eric. This is my smartphone, and this is my Pebble.
Pebble is a watch that you can customize. It runs a lot of cool and useful apps, and connects wirelessly by Bluetooth to your iPhone or Android smartphone. This is our dream team. It started with a prototype built from cell phone parts. That led us to our first commercial product, the Impulse smartwatch for BlackBerry. The number one question we received was, when will the watch work with my iPhone? Well, we're proud to say that we can finally answer that question. This is Pebble. It's the only watch that works perfectly with iPhone and Android smartphones. Pebble is much smaller and lighter than anything else out there. It has a high-resolution e-paper display that looks sharp and readable even outside under direct sunlight.
So see, there you could tell that they did a great job on the video, and they had a very exciting product. And really what they were doing is they literally would give you the product at certain pledges. So pledge $99 or more, you get an early bird Pebble watch. And so they simply just increased the pricing each time someone backed them. So it was really a well thought out project, and you better believe that they planned this out well in advance. I mean, this is a professional job, and that's what we should all strive to do. You know, the way you succeed is by putting in the work to make people want to back you, and they definitely did a good job in that. So James, do you have any questions? And make sure you unmute yourself, please.
Right. No, when I worked with Original Tomboy to help them do their Kickstarter campaign, we did the same thing. We modeled ourselves after, we benchmarked some of the best Kickstarter projects that were out there, and we modeled ourselves at that. At that time, I didn't have knowledge of your 9 steps, so there definitely would have been a lot more planning that we would have done on the front end beyond just the video. I think the thing that really saved us in our campaign was the video that we created. But I think they could have, and they met their target, which, if I remember correctly, was either $15 or $25. They met it and exceeded it. But I think we would have done even better if we would have done even more pre-planning. We put almost all of our effort into the video, and that really paid off because the video went a little bit viral because it was just such a good production, right? So I agree with you. I think the video is one of the most, not one of the most, but it's a very, very important component of putting together a great campaign. But if you can concentrate on the video and then follow the other 9 steps, you're just so much more likely to be in that percentage that actually meets their campaign goals and gets funded.
Absolutely, James. And see, what's interesting is just through our own journey, we've decided that we're actually on our 3rd version of our video, by the way, because we keep doing it, sending feedback, doing it, sending feedback. But what I would recommend to anyone as well who's going to launch a crowdfunding campaign is, like you said, get that video right, get your profile right, and when you think everything is perfect, I mean, always get feedback. So once you get the feedback and you make adjustments, once it's perfect, at least to as perfect as you're going to get it, wait a whole month before you launch it, so that you can then rev up your crowd. I mean, you could try to rev them up while you're doing this, but to me, if you get that big hurdle out of the way as well, you can then say, I could launch at any time. I don't have to launch tomorrow now that I've been approved. I could launch 30 days from now so that I could build the momentum, do a 30-day to launch strategy, which is what we're going to be doing as soon as our profile is 100% done. And that 30-day to launch allows you to take every person you've ever met over the 3 to 6 months prior of planning and funnel them and rev them up and get them to understand what the ask of them is right within that first week of launch. Because that first week of launch, if you can get at least 30% or more within the first week, you could potentially go on the front page of Indiegogo and Kickstarter, and that's the goal of pre-planning. So you're right, the video is critical. Yeah.
I agree. We kind of had a deadline because it was a fashion-related project, right? And so fashion has a limited life. We're also tying it into Caltech, and the school year was going to end. We wanted to launch the campaign before the school year ended because we wanted to get some of those students involved in the project. So we're on a super tight deadline, and I think a lot of businesses are. But even with a super tight deadline, you can do a lot of, you could and you should, from experience, do a lot of planning. And like I said, there were a lot of things that, if going back, hindsight is 2020, that I would have done differently. But the cool thing is, when you go through one of these campaigns that's really super intense, you learn a lot, right?
Absolutely.
So now I can really help other people learn from some of the things that we didn't do as well as we should have, right? To do even better. And yeah, planning is key.
Absolutely, James. Great. And Actually, it looks like we have our first question. Thank you, Anthony, for watching. Anthony's question is, can you crowdfund for real estate? If so, do you have an example? The answer is yes, and I do have an example. Let me go to one of these websites to show you an example. So right now, there is actually a couple of different versions of this type of crowdfunding for real estate. So we have, this company is a great company, patchaland.com. They are debt crowdfunding. So Anthony, if you were to go to patchaland.com, you could either sign up as a borrower, meaning someone who's an operator who's looking to raise capital. You just click on the borrowers tab and you could go through their questions. So let's see, this is the get started now. And then you have this. You just fill out all the information about what your what the deal is, who you are with an application. They're going to ask you all these questions, and basically you could list a property on their website and get it funded through crowdfunding. Another option, if you're looking for equity, you can also do fundrise.com. And fundrise.com, as opposed to Patchaland, fundrise.com is also doing crowdfunding, but Patchaland currently is only the accredited investor crowdfunding, meaning the only people who can invest in one of the deals brought on Patchaland are individuals who make $200,000 a year or more, or are worth $1 million in net worth excluding their personal residence. They're using Title II equity crowdfunding. So Anthony, if I were you, I would write down Title II equity crowdfunding, and then also write down Regulation D, Rule 506C. Regulation D, Rule 506C. And I'm asking you to write that down because you need to talk to an attorney and ask them to look into Title II equity crowdfunding, Regulation D, Rule 506C. And if you need a referral to an accountant who specializes in this area, I'd be happy to do that, and you could just shoot me an email after the show. But that's what they do on Patchaland. Fundrise is also using that same rule, but they're also using Regulation A. So write down Regulation A, which also allows to actually obtain investment from unaccredited investors. Regulation A has been around for over 30 years, but no one uses it, or no one used it in the past because the technology was not there and it was so cumbersome to go through the Regulation A compliance. But with technology, now it's easier to use that old regulation. So that's another interesting thing about crowdfunding. It's driven by technology, and it's disrupting the way capital is being raised. So I'll log into my account here on Fundrise because it's kind of an interesting platform. You could look for investments that are currently raising money. You have you have someone raising 1.5 million, another person raising 500,000 out of Philadelphia. You got a Washington D.C. project, 300,000. So you have all these projects, and if you look, you'll see some of these have been funded. So this gave someone an 8% return, and this was funded likely with multiple investors, and they're getting a very good return on their investment. So it's just an interesting thing. So the answer is yes, you can do it. If you'd like more detailed information, we'll have to touch base offline. But the world is changing quickly, and these type of technologies are really disrupting the way capital is being raised. To give you an indication too, Anthony.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So is that instead of going for a loan, like say you want to buy property, instead of going for a home mortgage loan, are you crowdfunding your property purchase? Is that what that is?
That's exactly right. Now, here's the thing though. Most people would not want to invest in your own personal residence, but if you're trying to buy like a rental property, then they'd be willing to invest. Like, it's not going to work for you, I mean, unless you come up with a very innovative idea. But I don't think, like me, if I wanted to just buy like a single family home that I could live in, I don't think anyone would want to crowdfund that, because what's the return on that investment? You know,
The interest that they make, right?
I guess actually good call. If I'm willing to pay them an interest rate, you're right actually. Okay, never mind. You just proved me wrong. because essentially you would be paying them like it was the bank.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You could actually. That's interesting. I think I
you just make you go, right? This could really turn things upside down.
Home ownership, almost even like a rent-to-own crowdfunding. Like, who knows? Something. There could be some interesting things going on there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes. So and also, just so you know, though, the mortgage component of this, if you're going to do debt, it's more expensive than a bank loan, but less expensive than hard money lending. So Patch of Land and all these sites kind of like land in between. I personally like Patch of Land a lot because they're just a great company, very responsive, and they're they're the alternative to hard money lending. So like a lot of people who are in real estate, if they can't get a bank mortgage, they try to go to these hard money lenders who charge like 5 points and 20% interest. I'm exaggerating, but they charge ridiculous rates. I mean, here the Patch of Land people of the world are like much more reasonable, but they're just a little bit more expensive than a bank loan. So Anthony, I'm glad that you found value in that, and again, I'd be happy to help you there. Real estate's going to be huge for crowdfunding. All right, so let's go back to here, and we'll try to speed it up a little bit. I know we're already 45 minutes in, but I hope this is valuable to the viewers out there. Oops, like pressing a million things here. Okay, so we have another example. I would go through Chups and I would go through Bohemian Guitars, but I want to go through just a separate Kickstarter to show people another interesting opportunity here that happened with a friend of mine. So if we were to go to Kickstarter, we are going to look up my good friend from Tree Sleeve. His name is Raymond Frazier. And, this is an interesting thing. He came to me when there was about only 40,000 raised, and they're looking to raise 100,000. And he came to me because, he got all this money just by working the phones and dealing with his friends, family, and traditional network and really networking. But he didn't do any social media build-up, and he didn't get any PR at all. So he had the most important thing handled, but he didn't do anything in social media and nothing in PR. So he came to me when he had 40,000. He said, I need some help. I don't know what else to do. I said, well, it's too late to do social media because you're already launched. You could still obviously promote through social media, and you want to find influencers to promote your campaign. But really what you want to try to do is get a blogger or a journalist or someone to write about you or go on TV. So I couldn't help him at this stage in the game other than providing him with a listing of journalists and bloggers that I had that might want to write about him. I gave that to him. He, again, busted his butt, did all the work himself, and got some press, and it boosted him up 30,000 in about 2 weeks. So he did a good job there. Now, this was the weird part. I said, man, he's going to do it. He's so close. Then if you look at the top, it says canceled. Funding was canceled for this project on May 16th, and I was like, what the hell? Why would he ever cancel this? And so I called him up and I said, Raymond, why did you stop? You were so close. And he says to me, Manolis, I actually got an angel investor, a venture capitalist, to say, stop your campaign. I'm going to give you the 100,000, and I want to invest in your company. So this is the power of what's happening in crowdfunding. People who wouldn't have a chance to get a bank loan or an angel or venture capitalist investment, they're going out there and proving to these people that there's a demand for this consumer product. His product specifically was a tree sleeve, he calls it. It's the coffee cup sleeves that you see at Starbucks where they put it around the coffee so you don't burn your hands. Well, that tree sleeve, it's a beautiful social mission because not only do you buy the sleeve for your coffee shop, but each sleeve purchased, a tree is planted somewhere around the world. So it's like a beautiful mission where you buy a sleeve and we plant a tree. So he just had a brilliant idea. But ultimately, he received a venture capitalist investment to really help him and take his company all over the world into the next level. So this young man his life has changed. And let me show you just a quick video so you can actually see him. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I want you to see how young he is and how his world just changed through crowdfunding.
I've always been a frequent coffee shop visitor, whether it's been getting some work done, meeting with friends, or enjoying a nice dark roast in the morning. However, there's one element of coffee shops I never understood, and that's the amount of waste that shops produce on a daily basis from paper coffee sleeve usage. So I decided to do some research and discovered that millions of trees are cut down every year just to make these single-use items served in these establishments. I knew I had to figure a way to transform a product typically viewed as a vehicle of waste into a vehicle of good, and that was the beginning of Tree Sleeve.
With Tree Sleeve, we are dealing with the biggest issue currently facing the planet: the safety and the security of our environment.
So as you can see, I mean, just a beautiful team, another beautiful video. And the guy is just a young entrepreneur, and he executed a plan. He did everything he could. He did everything right. He just didn't put enough effort into social media and PR. But that was still enough. Even without it, it was still enough to get an angel and VC to come in and say, I believe in you. I think this is a great idea. And he had all his ducks in a row to prepare himself for that amazing opportunity. Well, wasn't that amazing, James?
Yeah, we didn't see the video for some reason. But if you could put a link, put a link on the event page,
sure,
that would be great. But I have a question. Why would when he is so close, even if he's getting a venture capitalist to invest in him, he could have literally doubled his investment if he would have continued with the campaign. So instead of 100,000, he could have had 200,000. Plus, he could have been distributing and making the product, because part of a Kickstarter is you're giving people the product. So that's however many people were contributing to that campaign would have got that product, and it would have been more branding for him. So why did he stop?
Correct. So this is a good example, a good question, and I can only speculate, but with that $100,000 that he needed, right? He received $70,000, which means he now had 166 or more people that he had to send rewards off to. So although he's raising the capital the right way through Kickstarter, by taking the VC money without having to, fulfill those rewards immediately, it essentially allowed him to focus on really why he did this, because he needed to actually begin the manufacturing process. So if he had to also fulfill rewards while he had to do the manufacturing process, that would have been a whole new level of challenges and work and fulfillment obligations. So he said to himself, instead of having to go through with it all right this second, I know these people will buy from me in the future. I know they care about me, so they're not going to be totally disappointed, because ultimately they're going to have a chance to really support this on a much larger scale now that he got the funding he needs, and he could solely focus on what the purpose of the funding was. You know what I mean? So to me, I see why he would do that. I mean, it makes sense.
If I were advising him, I would have had a long conversation. I mean, ultimately, he might decide to do exactly what he did, but I would have a long heart-to-heart with him. And there may be other reasons that we're not even thinking about that. He cut it, but it's just interesting because he was so close, and he could have gotten that. He could have distributed. I mean, one of the cool things about, and I think it's important to have this conversation regardless of what direction he went, just so that people can see the whole picture and make these kind of decisions when they're faced with the same thing. But one of the advantages, in my mind, of continuing the platform and actually distributing that product early is you can use that for feedback. You can use getting the product out there early. The people who you get the product to, they're going to share it with other people. I mean, there are a lot of good reasons why he could have continued. I'm sure there are just as many good reasons why he didn't. It would be great sometime maybe if we could hear his side of it, right?
Yeah, actually, good point. I'd actually like to have him on the show. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'd like to hear why he decided not to go through it. It's probably something really good and really something simple that we can't even comprehend right at this moment. But it'd be really awesome to have that discussion with him sometime, Manolis.
Definitely. I think that's a very valid point. Okay, let me quickly go to this full screen, and I'm going to kind of zip through this a little bit because I'm sure you have a lot of things to do as well, James. So do you see the project again, the PowerPoint?
Yes, I see it.
Perfect. So this is another quote that I absolutely love, and at times when I got fearful, I just kind of look back on this quote and say, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure if you can do it, say yes, then learn how to do it later. This isn't talking about being irresponsible and blatantly doing something that you're not qualified to do. But there's just some new challenges that in life pop up at times, and we oftentimes are presented with something that excites us so much that we get scared, and we begin to say, but what if I fail? But what if I can't do it? But what if I don't do this? But what if I don't do that? The bottom line is, if you commit to something and it's not something that you completely are just like, I'm not talking about committing to saying that you can perform surgery on someone's heart. That's something that you would never say yes to. But, we all get those moments in our life where we have something that comes along that stretches us beyond our current capacities, but it's ultimately within our core capability to be able to do it. Just say yes, and just find a way to learn and bring other people in if you need to really live the life that you want, live the dream that you want. So I love Richard Branson. I love this quote. So for those watching, I would love to give them this actual presentation, because it does go into a little bit more detail into the business planning. But I mean, one of the most important questions that I think any business owner, whether you're crowdfunding or not, should ask is, why should people care about my product or service? Meaning, what is your pitch? Who are the people who likely would care about this product or vision? And where do they congregate? And as a business owner, in order to find in order to get more business, in order to find people who want to crowdfund your project, you need to spend your time on those 3 questions. And once you have the answer to the first 2, and then you know where the third one is, the where, that's where you spend all your time giving your messages. Go where they are. Don't waste your time selling ice cream to an Eskimo. Go where people actually care about your product or service, and make sure you're in front of them, because that's where you get more leads. That's where you get people who are more excited for you. You want to make sure that you focus your attention on where your target market is. Before you really broadcast, and this is kind of a catch-22, and I'll tell you why. If you can afford to get patents and secure your intellectual property. I mean, everyone should have a corporation. Everyone should be able to get incorporated and do the basic trademark and logos. But I mean, when you're talking about the big bucks on patents, if you can afford it, yes, you should do it. And there is a crowdfunding website that helps you with that. Like this crowdfunding website, Karma Crowd, I work with them. They actually offer no upfront intellectual property protection. So if you need to do things like that, they'll, as long as you use their crowdfunding platform to raise your funds, they will actually take the money off on the back end, meaning as a percentage of the raise. So they could help you with that. But one thing that I say is this, the last little bullet: if you don't have the resources, don't let that stop you. If you don't tell anyone about your business or idea, no one will ever know. Action above all wins. So people who are fearful of individuals taking their idea and running with it ultimately will never see their idea come to life, or they will maybe 10 years down the road when someone finally figures out that same idea, because they're so afraid of someone stealing it. You need to be able to network, you need to be able to inspire others with your idea in order to get the help you need to bring your project to life. So don't let that stop you, just be smart about what you share with people.
Hey, Manolis, and if I can jump in, it's not just your idea, but it's the passion behind your idea. So it's the fact that you have this idea and you have the passion to drive it home. Somebody who may copy what it is you're doing, they may be able to copy somewhat, your idea, but they're not going to be able to copy your passion for it, right?
I 100% agree. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, someone can copy an idea, but they cannot replicate how you were going to do it because they're not in your head. They can't read your mind, and they don't have the passion and commitment that you do. So that's another thing. When I see other people like in a similar space than we are, or similar space that my friends are, I don't view them as competition. I actually, whenever I find someone who's doing something similar to me, I say, how can we work together so that everyone wins? You know, it's not I win or you win. Can we find a way for both of us to win? And I think that's the important piece here. Is you're right. Even if someone does something similar to you, the negative feeling that comes with identifying an individual as a competitor is just not something you need when you're starting a business. You have to just keep pushing forward and believing that your mission is just. So excellent point, James. So then social media again. Actually, maybe next week I'll give my social media and promoting your crowdfunding campaign class. But I had a class here at the University of Hartford. And you want to make sure you use Hootsuite, which is a social media scheduling app, or Buffer app. And there's a lot of things here about social media that most people don't realize. Social media is important, not as solely a broadcasting tool. People are only using social media 25% to its potential. You broadcast a link 25% of the time at most. The rest of the time you want to be engaging and having conversations with people. And that's how you build relationships online. You don't have to be someone you're not. In fact, if you have a brand, you want to just talk like yourself, but just using your brand's Twitter account or using your brand's Facebook account, and just show that your brand is a person, that you have personality, and actually care about your customers. And people really care about having an engaging conversation with you and your brand.
Hey, Manolis, can I tell you something that I did this morning along those lines?
Sure.
Okay, so I've been, I really want to give my business a kick in the pants, but I 1,000% believe in it's about relationships and not spamming people. So as the innovation coach, I'm like, how can I get a group of people together and start talking to them rather quickly and establish those relationships quicker than just commenting and posting? And so I'm like, this morning it just dawned on me. I'm like, you know what? There's tons of business communities on Google+. Just go into those business communities and look for people who are aligned with my, I guess, my tribe, right? Like, just look for people who are part of my tribe. And so I did that. I just started to create a circle, and I created the circle. I called it something like potential leads or something along those lines. Just started to create the circle, and then I shared a post with that circle, and I told them exactly what I was completely upfront. I told them exactly what I was doing. I told them I'm creating a community. I have an agenda. You'll learn what my agenda is, but I'm really also a pretty awesome dude to connect with. And I've just started to build a community. I think I've already got like 20 or 30 people in the community, already. And so I'm going to just super engage with them, and I'm going to limit the amount of people who I bring into the community. I'm going to make it a private community, but I'm just going to start engaging, to the nines with these people.
Am I part of that community?
Yes, you are, of course. Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. No, it's very smart. There's an interesting feature that I just noticed too. When you select a circle on Google+, there's an option now that says email these people as well. I haven't seen that before. It must have just happened. But that right there is incredible.
No, it's been around for a long time. When I very first started on Google+, they called it something else. Then maybe a year or two ago, they changed it to the way that it is now, but it's not always obvious. Sometimes it's not obvious and it's not easy to find. But yeah, it's an awesome tool. Just don't use it. People use it to spam, and that turns people off. But if you use it creatively and innovatively, in a way such that I did this morning, people are okay with it.
Cool. Okay. I'm gonna have to look at your account and just see exactly what you're doing there.
Yeah. Check
Cool.
it out. Check
Thank
it
you.
out.
Definitely. Okay, so let's just go back here quick. Public relations. PR is kind of a lot of people don't think that they can get press. That's a misnomer. You really need to, you need to come up with a message map. Like, what is your message? You need to have like a communications plan, meaning when are you going to send out a press release? But once you have your message map, it's really, finding similar journalists and bloggers who want to talk about the keywords that are in your industry. You could search for bloggers and even through Google. You could just use Google and search for people who talk about what you're doing. And if you could share a compelling story with how you're innovatively using crowdfunding to get the word out about the specific cause or the specific industry. Right now, crowdfunding is so hot that there's a lot of people willing to write about it because it's just such an innovative way, and it's completely disrupting everything. But one little trick that I use for when people want to send out a press release, MarketWire.com, it does cost a little bit of money as far as actually like sending out a press release. I think for a certain amount of words, I usually average, it costs me about $300 each time I send one out. But the beauty of MarketWire is if it's written in a professional manner, 200 plus other websites will pick up on your press release and replicate it on their sites, and they're all linking back to your website each time that happens. And talk about getting on the front page of Google really quickly. If you do a few of these, like 2 a month, by the third month, you're probably going to be on the front page for the keywords that you're really trying to get. So this isn't only for like crowdfunding. I think people should use this as a business tool to get their SEO up. Campaign strategy. The campaign strategy is a mixture of your social media, your live in-person events, and your phone calls, your emails. It's really, how am I going to get everyone in line to really support me when the time comes? And James and I are definitely proponents of this because we each have our own show. But Google Hangouts, I can see this as one of the a must-have tool for everyone in the future, especially if you're crowdfunding or even building a brand. I just think it's such a great way to really show people a personal side to you and your business and your crowdfunding campaign. That it's just critical. So Google Hangouts is going to be huge. Live events are always important. If having a launch party right in the first week. An industry event, if you are part of an industry that would care about your crowdfunding campaign, you'd want to go and network. And then, lest we forget, some businesses have existing customers. So find a way to use those existing customers and offer them like a customer appreciation month where instead of doing the normal course of business through your webpage, well, why don't you just go through the crowdfunding campaign?
Hey, Manolis,
yes.
And to piggyback on what you said, the cool thing about Google Hangouts is you can do them in conjunction with live events, with industry events, and even getting some of your customers, together in certain situations. There are a lot of ways you can be creative and innovative with Google Hangouts to kind of bring it all together and broadcast what you're doing at these live events or at these industry events, or when you're bringing your customers together. You can kind of get the best of all worlds.
Completely right. And I mean, we've done a couple of those live broadcasts, but the last one we did last Wednesday, unfortunately, was pretty terrible because it's funny. We were at MIT in Boston giving a presentation on crowdfunding, and they didn't have a good internet connection. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, you guys are supposed to be the technology hub of the world, and we couldn't get a good internet connection. It was
sad.
It was misery, man. The Hangout, which could have been so amazing, had
crashed and burned, huh?
Yeah, it was a terrible thing. If anyone saw that, I apologize.
Oh man, I wish it would have been good because broadcast from MIT, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get other opportunities, and we'll just make sure that we weren't organizing the event, so I wasn't able to control the outcome, unfortunately. So I'll never put myself in a situation like that again. So networking and team building is the next step. So you want to be able to socialize your current network. So in the beginning of this presentation, I showed you that YouTube video of the young lady explaining what crowdfunding is. In 2 years, we won't have to do this as people looking to crowdfund. People will just know what crowdfunding is, and we won't have to explain it. But right now, it is so critical that the first thing you do whenever you're meeting someone new or trying to talk to your friends and family to say like what you're trying to do with this, you need to tell them what it is, because again, 7 out of 8 people have never heard of crowdfunding and they never heard of Kickstarter. So when you provide that first token of value, what I do afterwards is, especially when I'm at a networking event and I get someone excited, I say, yeah, it's a great thing. I'd love to share more with you about it. Do you mind if I take your business card so that we can both keep in touch and you could become a member of my crowd? And then they kind of like laugh and they're like, sure, yeah, here's my card. I'd love to learn more about it. So it's a great networking tool when you explain to someone what crowdfunding is who's never heard about it before. So always, always, always find a way to get people's contact information. And here's another thing too. You need to be able to paint a picture over your 3 to 6 month period when you execute this strategy. And the best way to do that is make sure you take video of your journey along the way. You want to paint a picture to show people that you've done everything you could without asking for money through crowdfunding. And you've done a lot of amazing things without the cash yet. Imagine now what you could do if you simply had the funds to bring you over the top. And so that's why, again, not only is it important to plan, but the 3 to 6 month strategy also tells the story of you, tells the story of your passion for your company and the vision of what this can do to take you to the next level. And so you need to do as much as you can without the money, because otherwise you're just asking for handouts, and again, expecting that people are just going to give it to you without knowing you. It's good to have job descriptions to come up with like a social media manager, community outreach individual, public relations manager. It's good to kind of when you're out there networking and team building and you're inspiring people to want to help you, if you give them a nice little description of what you need help with, they'd be willing to help you at perhaps no cost. And here's the thing that most people don't realize. If you can't pay someone, reward your team with knowledge. Everyone has compensation to offer another. If you don't have a budget, then share your knowledge with your team with your time. And that right there will be more valuable to most people than even getting paid, whatever you would pay them. Web development, you want to make sure that you have a strategy. You want to have a pre-launch, during launch, and post-launch web strategy. Pre-launch is really collecting information so that you can actually use that information and broadcast to them. You're launching your campaign. During launch, I've heard a lot of different strategies, but I'm thinking to myself, for what we're going to do, and we haven't launched yet, but I'm thinking to myself that if we're getting around 2,000 hits a month on our website, what we might want to do is during our campaign just redirect all traffic to our crowdfunding campaign. So whoever comes to our campaign will go right to our campaign website for crowdfunding, and they'll see exactly what's going on there. So I think that's what we're probably going to do, because that'll bring an extra 2,000 views a month directly to the Kickstarter or the Indiegogo, and that could be an effective strategy for people if they have a lot of traffic on their websites. And then post-launch, now that you've raised the money, you have a lot of new customers, you have a lot of rewards you have to fulfill, and you have a lot of work to do. So you still want to continue doing everything, including your social media and everything else, after you've raised the funds you need. Profile and video, again, we spoke about that and you saw some examples. And fulfillment. You always want to make sure that this piece of your process is ironclad. There's a lot of liability for product people if they don't do their homework as to what the manufacturing process looks like, how to do it, how much it's going to cost, how long should people expect to receive these rewards. There could be a lot of liability if you don't deliver on your promises. I highly advocate free rewards at the lower levels. You could create an ebook, you could provide some information. There's a lot of free things you could do. And make sure that you're not, make sure that you're protected intellectual property wise, but also make sure you're not infringing on other people's intellectual property rights either. So that is it for this segment of the actual presentation. I think I went through a lot here, and I hope all of you who are watching, and James, I hope you found that helpful. Were there any other questions that you had just as a result of what you just saw there, James?
None that I can think of. I agree with you. Outside of the liability, fulfilling your promise to people is part of your brand. And if you deliver, if you kind of keep the concept in mind, under promise and over deliver. If you say, for example, in your campaign, you're going to deliver your product in 3 months or 4 months, do it in 2 if you can, right? Under promise and over deliver, because everything you do from beginning of this campaign to the end, including fulfillment and including communicating with people along the way, step by step, is all you and your brand, and it reflects on you and it reflects on your brand. So even, I mean, personally, yes, consider the liability, but I would consider your brand above and beyond everything else. Protecting your brand, guarding your brand, letting people know that when they do business with you in the future, they're doing business with somebody who has integrity, who's looking out for them as a customer, who's going to provide excellent customer service. A campaign like this does so much more than raise money for you. It actually allows you to market yourself. It actually allows you to show people how well you can deliver your product. It allows you to show them what kind of customer service you can deliver to them. It acts as kind of like a test period for you and your business. I mean, there's so much more that comes out of this experience than just raising money for you. It's really like a trial run, a test run of running your business. And it's an opportunity to do it sort of like test run your business, right? I mean, there's just, yeah, I get all amped up and geeked out about this and the opportunities that it provides for small businesses.
Totally, I'm with you. We both have drank the Kool-Aid on this.
Totally, yes.
But yeah, so I mean, I haven't really broadly promoted this crowdfunding office hours, but do you think that I should? Do you think that I should like invite all my contacts? Because I'm just trying to test this out at the moment, but I think it's valuable for people to see, and in a way, a lot of people have questions that, again, they might come to you, they might come to me, and they just need a free place to like vet out some of their questions. I think this would be a great way to go.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it ties into your brand, right?
Yeah.
You get to show off what you're all about, so I say, hey, go for it. Do it.
Cool. All right, starting next week, we're going to have a lot more people on and a lot more interesting things to do here. But all right, well, James, thank you so much. Viewers, thank you very much as well. Thank you for the question, Anthony. And until next time, dream it, believe it, achieve it. Thank you.